If you don't know where you're going when you write a story, there's a chance you might run out of story or run out of steam before you get to the end. So I like to think about stepping stones because that helps me to get to the end. Writing an interesting opening means setting up a problem. Stories often begin with a main character wanting to change something about their life or situation. So a story opens with your main character having a destination, an aim, which is a good place to start because it basically means the reader has questions they want answered. How is it going to be achieved? What steps are going to be taken? Why do they want this change? They are hopefully going to read on to find out how it all turns out. And this is often the hook that keeps people reading until the ending, which is sometimes called the resolution. Once you've set up a situation at the opening, you want to keep the reader with you, figuring out the way forward and coming up with an answer that resolves the question is the bit I find really challenging. So I think about stepping stones because I have to keep reminding myself to make sure every part of my story is building towards answering that question and resolving that thing your main character wanted to change right at the beginning. Writing is a voyage of discovery, but I think one of the important things to think about when trying to decide what's going to happen next is that your plot is not just a series of incidents. It's not just things that happen to your main character. I want to make sure that every step is somehow involved in that main question because I think that is what helps keep the reader reading. I always like to think of my readers. What do readers want? I think readers want your character to take action to achieve their goal. If they take action, it's going to affect their situation somehow, and that's what makes drama and plot. If your character takes action, there will be consequences, and it's these consequences that should lead on to the next dramatic point, like a series of stepping stones. So the next key step is where something important, something meaningful happens. So a stepping stone doesn't need to be a helpful step. It can be a setback. But both things that help your main character or make things more difficult for your main character, both of them keep the story moving. Whether it's a setback or a breakthrough, a stepping stone might be a moment where a character learns something about the situation. It might be that they learn something about themselves. To be called a stepping stone, the dramatic point should somehow make a difference to the ending. And if it doesn't, then I call that an incident rather than a stepping stone. Sometimes incidents or a particular scene or something happens can be tremendous fun to write. But if I have too many incidents in a story, too many big scenes that are not directly taking my character either towards resolving their main goal or providing another disappointing setback, another obstacle, then that's when I feel I'm in danger of writing a loose plot and losing my reader's engagement, and that's when I need to cut. I try to get all my stepping stones from beginning to the end to all adding to the central drama, adding to the questions you're generating in the reader's mind about how it's all going to be resolved. How is the main character going to solve that problem set up at the beginning? I want my reader to keep on reading and keep wanting to know the outcome. I want action to have consequences, even unseen consequences. Readers like to think ahead and anticipate. And if they're involved in the story, I think good plotting really helps this. If your readers are involved, they will see the goal clearly and they will understand each thing that happens, each key bit of drama, each stepping stone. Is it taking your character towards what they want or taking them away from it? But each step should lead to something the reader can see, something the reader can understand, because that means that the story is making progress. Readers like progress. Keep the story moving. So how do you tell if something you've written is a stepping stone or an incident? I think it helps if you can identify which bits are critical to the drama, which bits, if you took them out, the plot couldn't happen or wouldn't make sense. And if you spot long gaps where the story is not making progress, where there are bits which are not contributing to that ending and the central question, this can be where you need to have a rethink, because these are the bits where you can lose your reader. Storyboarding is a technique used in filmmaking. I know a lot of authors who like to take a big board and probably quite a lot of those little sticky notes, and they identify the main points of action, and in this way you can kind of get a visual aid, and if you spread them all out you can sometimes spot are there enough dramatic points, either big or small ones, but key to making things move all the time towards resolving that question. If you can take a note of each dramatic point where your character is taking some action, what is the outcome? Does it drive the story? Does it mean that it's a strong stepping stone? Has your character learned something of value that in some way is going to affect the ending? That's a strong stepping stone too. Is there a reason for your character to be in this situation? What's brought them here to this particular point in the story? Is it all a consequence of what has gone before? This is what I mean by consequences. Remember, the actions your character takes has to have consequences. I think if they don't have consequences or the reader can't see the consequences, there is a risk that you'll lose your reader. And I think that very often the plot is driven by that motivation of your main character. Why are they doing what they're doing? Why are they taking each step, the next step on the stepping stone? This all helps your reader to understand your character as well as the plot. And in this way, I like to use plot to underline the meaning and the consequence, and it helps the reader understand what the story is all about. I work hard to get my character and my plot intertwined because I want the stepping stones to happen, because if this character is who they are, and if someone else was faced with those same choices and consequences, they might take different actions and there would be different consequences. In a story, most of the time something's going wrong for your main character. In most stories you will notice that everything pretty much gets worse pretty much all the time. They take a step, things get more difficult long before things start to get resolved. But hopefully through their actions they learn enough about the situation and they take this journey through the stepping stones of actions that they have taken, and that does lead to the resolution in the end. Hopefully you can make the whole journey, which is something which is really unique to them, and this is why I like to think of my plot like stepping stones.